Okay, so a very great evening, everyone. Thank you so very much for joining us again on another exciting Upgrade Mastery Just for You. Yes, this is the Upgrade Mastery Just for You. And we are still doing this every Friday, 7 p.m. through to 8 p.m. I will basically just get to share our experiences from the week, the learnings we had, the challenges we faced, how were we able to overcome them. These are the things that we get to do here every Friday. We just get to let down our hair and just talk, just have a conversation and share the experiences of the week. So, how are you? How was your week? What were the things that you did this week? What were the things that stood out for you? What were challenges you faced? How were you able to overcome those challenges? What are the things that we get to talk about on the Upgrade Mastery Just for You? And like we know, we do this every Fridays. Basically, just a time to unwind and just talk about our week, things that we can learn from the week, and how we prepare for the new week that is coming. So, how are you doing? My week has been quite quite eventful as always. I had some things I needed to do. I had some presentations I needed to put up, and I had some things I also needed to tackle, which I was able to do. Right, so that was my week. Right, but how was your week? What did you do this week? What were the things you had to deal with? What were challenges you had to overcome? What were challenges that felt like insurmountable, that you felt, oh, I just can't wait for the week to be over? How was your week? I'd like to know how your week has been. Do well to let us know in the comments how your week has been, and it will really help us to know that yes, we are truly impacting people and we are truly being there for you. So basically, tell me, how have you been? How was your week? What did you do this week? What stood out for you? What challenge did you face? How are you able to overcome those challenges? I'd like to hear from you. And feel free to also share the link with your friends, your family, your loved ones, and even your enemies so that they too can be part of the conversation. So, guys, this is another Upgrade Master just for you. And we basically will continue from where we left off the last time. We are still on our series Genesis, and this is episode 7, right? We are getting closer towards the end of this series. I think we have 3 more episodes left. By episode 10, we'll be out, right? So we're gradually getting towards the end of this series, and it has been interesting. So in case you have missed any part of the series, you can always go back on the YouTube channel, Mr. Upgrade Global, and get to watch and catch up on the series Genesis. Now, after Genesis, we are going to continue, but this time we're not going to do a series. Now, this has been the longest series we have ever done, 10 episodes, right? After Genesis, we probably will do something else, but not a series, so that people can take a breather, right? But this series has been interesting. I've enjoyed it from episode 1 to episode 6, and today is episode 7. There's so much that we're going to cover today, and I can't wait for us to get into it proper. Like we always do, we're looking at the book of Genesis, the Bible book of Genesis, from chapter 1 to chapter 50. And we've broken down each episode to take 5 chapters. And in each chapter, we're taking 3 lessons. So there's so much that you're going to learn from this. And please, let me know how this series has been for you so far. What have you learned so far from this series? What has stood out for you in this series? What are the things that you look out for and like, wow, I never knew this before, but now I know, right? I like to know how this has been helpful to you so that we really know that we are making an impact through this series. And like we said, this series will come to an end at episode 10. It's like a movie series. It's going to come to an end by episode 10. I think that will be towards the end of the month. And I can't wait. I can't wait for this series to be over. Not because I want it to end, but because I believe you've learned so much in this series so that we can get into some other things in 2026. There's so much I really need to talk about in 2026, or we'll get this series out of the way first before we get into that, right? And if this series has been impactful to you, please let us know in the comments how well this series has impacted you, what you have learned from the series, what you are currently practicing that you have learned from this series. I'd like to know, so we really know that we are making an impact in your life through this particular series. By the way, this is Valentine's Eve. Tomorrow is going to be Valentine. For those of you celebrating Valentine, there's a video that I put out there. We say, do not love only on Valentine's Day, love every day. But anyway, scratch that. Let's get back into the series. Now, do want to invite your friends, your families, your loved ones, and even your enemies so that they can be part of this conversation as we continue Genesis, the series, episode 7. Now, on episode 7, We're going to be looking at chapter 31 through to chapter 35. Remember, we take 5 chapters in every episode. So we're going to go from chapter 31 to chapter 35. And you know how we do it? We'll read through the chapter and we'll pick out the 3 lessons that we feel you should know about. And if you also have lessons you feel we missed out in the chapter, you can also put it in the comments so we can take the lesson you also spotted out in the chapter. Like we said, there are 3 lessons from each chapter, and let's get this show on the road. Please let me know that you can hear me loud and clear so that we can make progress as we continue. Thank you so much for being here, guys. I truly do not take this for granted. I am super grateful, and I'm excited that we are doing this together. So, Genesis chapter 31. Let's begin the reading, and then we would make progress. Okay, so chapter 31. But Jacob soon learned from Laban's son. Jacob soon learned that Laban's sons were grumbling about him. Jacob has robbed our father of everything, they said. He has gained all his wealth at our father's expense. And Jacob began to notice a change in Laban's attitude towards him. Then the Lord said to Jacob, return to the land of your father and grandfather and to your relatives there, and I will be with you. So Jacob called Rachel and Leah out to the field where he was watching his flock. He said to them, I have noticed that your father's attitude towards me has changed, but the God of my father has been with me. You know how hard I have worked for your father, but he has cheated me, changing my wages 10 times. But God has not allowed him to do me any harm. For if he said, the speckled animals will be your wages, the whole flock began to produce speckled young. And when he changed his mind and said, strip animals will be your wages, the whole flock produced strip young. In this way, God has taken your father's animals and given them to me. One time during the mating season, I had a dream and saw that the male goats mating with the female were streaked, speckled, and spotted. Then in my dream, the angel of the Lord said to me, Jacob. And I replied, yes, yeah, I am. The angel said, look up, and you will see that only the streaked, speckled, spotted males are mating with the females of your flock. For I have seen how Laban has treated you. I am the God who appeared to you at Bethel, the place where you anointed the pillar of stone and made your vow to me. Now, get ready and leave this country and return to your land of your birth. Rachel and Leah responded, that's fine with us. We won't inherit any of our father's wealth anyway. He has reduced our rights to those of foreign women. After he sold us, he wasted the money you paid him for us. All the wealth that God has given you from our father legally belongs to us and our children. So go ahead and do whatever God has told you. So Jacob put his wives and children on camels and drove all his livestock in front of him. He packed all his belongings, which he had acquired at Paddan-aram, and set out to the land of Canaan, where his father Isaac lived. At the time they left, Laban was some distance shearing his sheep. Rachel stole her father's household idols and took them with her. Jacob outwitted Laban the Aramean, for they set out secretly and never told Laban they were leaving. So Jacob took all his possessions with him and crossed the Euphrates River, heading for the hill country of Gilead. 3 days later, Laban was told that Jacob had fled, so he gathered a group of his relatives and set out in hot pursuit. He caught them with Jacob 7 days later in the hill country of Gilead. But the previous night, God appeared to Laban the Aramean in a dream and told him, I am warning you, leave Jacob alone. Laban caught up with Jacob as he was camped in the hill country of Gilead and set up his camp not far from Jacob's. What do you mean by deceiving me like this? Laban demanded. How dare you drag my daughters away like prisoners of war? Why did you slip away secretly? Why did you deceive me? And why didn't you say you wanted to leave? I would have given you a farewell feast with singing and music, accompanied with tambourines and harp. Why didn't you let me kiss my granddaughters and daughters and grandchildren and tell them goodbye? You've acted very foolishly. I could destroy you, but the God of your father appeared to me last night and warned me, leave Jacob alone. I can understand your feeling that you must go and your intense longing for your father's home. But why have you stolen my gods? I rushed away because I was afraid, Jacob answered. I thought you would take your daughters from me by force. But as for your God, See if you can find them. Let the person who has taken them die. And if you can find anything else among you, identify it before your relatives and us, I will give it back. But Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen the household idols. Laban went first into Jacob's tent to set there, then into Leah's tent, and then set the two servants, but found nothing. Finally, he went to Rachel's tent, but Rachel had taken the household idol and hidden them in a camel saddle, and now she was sitting on them. When Laban had thoroughly searched her tent without finding them, she said to her father, "Please, sir, forgive me if I don't get up for you. I'm having my monthly period." So Laban continued his search, but he could not find the household idols. Then Jacob became very angry. He challenged Laban. "What's my crime?" he demanded. "What have I done wrong to make you chase after me as though I was a criminal? You have rummaged through everything I own. Now show me what you have found that belongs to you. Set it out here in front of us, before our relatives, for all to see. Let them judge between us. For 20 years I have been with you, caring for your flocks. In all that time, your sheep and goats never miscarried. In all those years, I never used a single ram of yours for food. If any were attacked or killed by wild animals, I never showed you the carcass and asked you to reduce the count of your flock. No, I took the loss myself. You made me pay for every stolen animal, whether it was taken in broad daylight or in the dark of night. I worked for you through the scorching heat of the day and through the cold and sleepless night. Yes, for 20 years I slaved in your house. I worked for 14 years, earning your 2 daughters, and then 6 more years for your flock. And you changed my wages 10 times. In fact, if God of my father had not been on my side, the God of Abraham and the fearsome God of Isaac, you would have sent me away empty-handed. But God has seen your abuse and my hard work. That is why I appeared to you last night and rebuked you." Then Laban replied to Jacob, "These women are my daughters, these children are my grandchildren, and this flock are my flocks. In fact, everything you see is mine. But what can I do now that my daughters and their what can I do now about my daughters and their children? So come, let's make a covenant. And you and I, it will be witness, and it will be a witness to our commitment." So Jacob took a stone and set it up as a monument. Then he told the family members, "Gather some stones." So they gathered stones and piled them in a heap. Then Jacob and Laban sat down beside the pile of stones to eat a covenant meal to commemorate the event. Laban called the place Jak-Hachdoash, which means pile in Aramaic, and Jacob called it Galid, which means witness pile in Hebrew. Then Laban declared, "This pile of stone will stand as a witness to remind us of the covenant we have made today." This explains why it is called Galid, witness pile. But it was also called Mizpah, which means watchtower. For Laban said, "May the Lord keep watch between us to make sure that we keep this covenant when we are out of each other's sight. If you mistreat my daughters or if you marry other wives, God will see it even if no one does. It's a witness to this covenant between us." So the piles of stones, Laban continued. "See this pile of stone," Laban continued, "and see this monument I have set between us. They stand between us as a witness of our vows. I will never pass this pile of stones to harm you, and you must never pass this pile of stone or this monument to harm me. I call on the God of your ancestors, the God of your grandfather Abraham, and the God of your grandfather, and the God of my grandfather Nahor to serve as a judge between us." So Jacob took an oath before the fearsome God of his father Isaac to respect the boundary line. Then Jacob offered a sacrifice to God there at the mountain and invited everyone to a covenant feast. After they had eaten, they spent the night at the mountain. Laban got up early the next morning and he kissed his granddaughter, his grandchildren, and his daughters and blessed them. Then he left and returned home. Now that is chapter 31. Now, the interesting part of this story, there are 3 lessons to glean from chapter 31 that I'm going to start off with. Number 1, people can change towards you, but God is unchanged. Now you could see that regardless of what Jacob had done for Laban for 20 years. Now, going through this scripture, when we talk about Jacob served 7 years for one of Laban's daughter and another 7 years, that's 14 years. He worked another 6 years. Now, Genesis chapter 31 gives us a clue to how much Laban plundered Jacob. For 20 years, Jacob served Laban. And in that 20 years, Laban changed Jacob's wages 10 times. How wicked can the person be? How wicked can the person be? Literally. Now, this is mind-blowing. People can change towards you, but God is unchanged. Laban's children, they changed towards Jacob, feeling that Jacob has robbed their father. Whereas in reality, it is their father that had been robbing Jacob for 20 years, and you have 20 good years. 20 years of Jacob's life. See, that's a reminder that even if you carry the blessing, you can still abuse the blessing by the way you live your life. Because why would Jacob be with Laban for 20 years? The same Jacob who carried the blessing from Isaac. The same Jacob that God appeared to. Now, this chapter just gets me thinking that sometimes God will just allow you to be doing the stupid things you are doing until you get tired. Because it was Jacob himself that said, I want to go back to my father's house. And God said, okay, it's fine, you can go back. So all these years, God was just looking at Jacob and said, Jacob, if only you know how blessed you are, you will not be wasting your time here. If only you know. I know for the prodigal son in Luke 15, Bible says he came to himself. Now, this is a reminder to us that at some point in our journey, we must come to ourselves. Because God is waiting for us to realize. God is just waiting for us to realize. Because God did not say anything to Jacob while Jacob was just doing what he was doing for 20 years. God was just looking at Jacob and like, oh, Jacob, if only you know. Like, Jacob, if only you just know. If only you just know the blessing you carry. If only you know. Lesson number 1. People can change towards you. Only God is unchanged towards you. In all of this, God still kept Jacob. God still kept protecting Jacob. God still kept defending Jacob. Which leads me to lesson number 2. No one can ever defend you like God. Literally, Laban was going to attack Jacob. But that night, in a dream, God warned him and said, do not touch Jacob. Let him go. Do not harm him. Let him go. And Laban had to confess and say, I had plans for you, but God warned me in a dream last night not to harm you. See, stop trying to defend yourself. Let God defend you. Literally, stop trying to defend yourself. Let God defend you. How would Jacob have been able to defend himself against Laban, the same man who had cheated him for 20 years? And Laban told him, everything you have is mine. And Jacob told Laban, the way you have treated me, I will leave your house with just my walking stick. I won't live with anything. The same way I came, that's how I will live after 20 years. But God defended me. And God told you not to harm me. See, lesson number 2 in chapter 31, no one can defend you like God. No one can defend you like God. And lesson number 3 in chapter 31 of Genesis is simple. Only God truly rewards your service. Only God truly rewards your service. Jacob served faithfully for 20 years. 20 years. But it was God who rewarded his service, who gave him the flocks he eventually had. Because Laban was still trying to cheat Jacob. But through what Laban was trying to cheat Jacob, God was blessing Jacob through it. See, do not look at your service you are rendering to people and say, oh, it's a waste of time. No. I say this all the time. God rewards faithful service. Your reward will not come from where you serve. It will always come from who you serve. And who you serve is God. That's why I keep telling people, you may not reap where you sow, but you always reap what you sow. So what you sow is most important. And what you sow is what God rewards, your faithful service. So the 3 lessons from Genesis 31, number 1, people can change towards you, but God is unchanged. Number 2, No one can defend you like God. And number three, only God truly rewards faithful service. Only God. Are you getting this? Is this making sense? Okay, so let's go to chapter 32, right? Chapter 32. There's a lot for us to cover in chapter 32. So let's quickly go to chapter 32 and then we will take the lessons. Chapter 32. Okay, as Jacob started on his way again, angels of God came to meet him. When Jacob saw them, he exclaimed, "This is God's camp." So he named the place Mahanaim. Then Jacob sent messengers ahead to his brother Esau, who was living in the region of Seir in the land of Edom. He told them, "Give this message to my master Esau. Humble greetings from your servant Jacob. Until now, I have been living with Uncle Laban, and now I own cattle, donkey, flocks of sheep and goats, and many servants, both men and women. I have sent these messengers to inform my lord of my coming. Hope they would be friendly to me. Hope that you will be friendly to me." After delivering the message, the messengers returned to Jacob and reported, "We met your brother Esau. He's already on his way to meet you with an army of 400 men." Jacob was terrified at the news. He divided his household along with the flocks and herds and camels into two groups. He thought, if Esau meets one group and attacks it, perhaps the other group can escape. Then Jacob prayed, "O God of my grandfather Abraham and God of my father Isaac, O Lord, you told me, return to your own land and your relatives, and you promised me I will treat you kindly. I am not worthy of all the unfailing love and faithfulness you have shown to me, your servant. When I left home and crossed the Jordan River, I owned nothing except a walking stick. Now, my household fills two large camps. Oh Lord, please rescue me from the hands of my brother Esau. I'm afraid that he's coming to attack me along with my wives and children. But you promised me, I will surely treat you kindly, and I will multiply your descendants until they become as numerous as the sand along the seashore, too many to count." Jacob stayed there. Jacob stayed where he was for the night. Then he selected the gifts from his possession to present to his brother Esau: 200 female goats, 20 male goats, 20 ewes, 20 rams, 30 female camels with their young, 40 cows, 10 bulls, 20 female donkeys, and 10 male donkeys. He divided these animals into herds and assigned each to different servants. And he told his servant, "Go ahead of me with the animals, but keep some distance between the heads." He gave these instructions to the men leading the first group. "When my brother Esau meets you, he will ask, 'Whose servant are you? Where are you going? Who owns these animals?' You must reply, 'This belongs to your servant Jacob, but they are a gift to his master Esau. Look, he is coming right behind us.'" Jacob gave the same instruction to the second and the third herdsmen and all who followed behind the head. "You must say the same thing to Esau when you meet him. And be sure to say, 'Look, your servant Jacob is right behind us.'" Jacob thought, "I will try to appease him by sending gifts ahead of me. When I see him in person, perhaps he'll be friendly to me." So the gifts were sent on ahead while Jacob himself spent the night in the camp. During the night, Jacob got up and took his two wives and his servants' wives and 11 sons and crossed the Jabbok River with them. After taking them to the other side, he sent over all his possessions. Then this left Jacob alone in the camp, and a man came and wrestled with him until the dawn began to break. When the man saw that he would not win the match, he tore Jacob's hip and wrenched it out of his socket. Then the man said, "Let me go, for the dawn is breaking." But Jacob said, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." "What is your name?" the man asked. He replied, "Jacob." Your name will no longer be Jacob, the man told him. From now on, you'll be called Israel, because you have fought with God and with men and have won. Please tell me your name, Jacob asked. Why do you want to know my name? The man replied. Then he blessed Jacob there. Jacob named the place Peniel, which means face of God, for he said, I have seen God face to face, yet my life has been spared. The sun was rising as Jacob left Peniel, and he was leaping because of the injury to his hip. Even today, the people of Israel don't eat the tendon near the hip socket because of what happened that night when the man strained the tendons of Jacob's hip. Now, that was chapter 32. Now, 3 important lessons to learn from chapter 32 that I'll just share with us briefly. Number 1, God's presence is your biggest blessing. Notice that all through Jacob's life, one thing has been consistent. One thing he had taken away from his father Isaac when he received the blessing was he had open heavens. From that time, he had different encounters with God. From that time, even till now, either Jacob is having open vision, or he's seeing angels, or he's having God talk to him. Jacob was always having encounters with God. Now, that is as a result of that blessing that Jacob received. He had open heavens. You know, when we say open heavens over your life, that's it. You have encounters with God. And you see, that presence of God is the biggest blessing anybody can have. I'll say that again. The presence of God in your life is the biggest blessing that you can ever have. Because that presence will always ensure that you are favored anywhere you go. That's what Jacob was experiencing. Laban told him that I discovered that I am being blessed because of you. That was because Jacob carried that presence. So God's presence is your biggest blessing. So your blessing is not house, it's not car, it's not job, it's not contract. Your biggest blessing is God's presence. And we can see that with Jacob. Everywhere we could see Jacob having encounters, Jacob having angelic visitation because of God's presence that Jacob had. The second lesson to learn from chapter 32 is that being alone with God is important. Many things began to change for Jacob when Jacob was left alone. Sometimes you need to be left alone so you can be alone with God. Because when Jacob was alone with God, he had that encounter where he wrestled with God, and then God changed his name. So sometimes to rearrange your life, you need to be alone with God. Get away from the crowd. Get away from the noise. Be alone with God. Scripture says, and Jacob was left alone. And that night, he wrestled with a man. Are you getting it? So you need to be alone with God. When things are not going the way you expect, it's not a time for you to complain. It's not a time for you to feel bad. That's time for you to get alone and be with God. So that you can begin to gain clarity again for your journey and for your life. And we could see what happened to Jacob. At this point, when he was alone with God, this was when the change actually began for his life. He says, what is your name? He says, my name is Jacob. Say, your name will no longer be Jacob. Your name will now be Israel. Which is also the 10th lesson. The 10th lesson in chapter 32 is consciousness and awareness. Now that Jacob was alone with God, now that Jacob had that encounter with God, now that Jacob had wrestled with God, now Jacob's name has been changed to Israel. And the reason why the name change is important is now to give Jacob a consciousness and an awareness of who he is. Jacob's previous meaning of his name was swindler, deceiver. That's what Jacob means, swindler, deceiver. And that's what Jacob has always done all through his life. But now his name is changed to Israel, a prince with God. So now he needs to carry that consciousness. He needs to carry that awareness. You could see the same thing happen for Abraham. His name was changed from Abraham to Abraham, Sarai to Sarah, to give them an awareness and a consciousness of who they now are. From being called exalted father, Abraham, to Abraham, father of many. Are you getting this? So this was why Jacob needed a name change and also to have an awareness of who he now is. So he's no longer a swindler. He's no longer a deceiver. He's now a prince with God. As a prince with God, it affects how you now live your life. Are you getting this? Is this making sense? Are you getting this? So that's it. That's it. So 3 lessons to learn from chapter 32 of Genesis. Number 1, God's presence is your biggest blessing. Number 2, alone with God is important. And number 3, consciousness and awareness is critical. Now, let's get to Genesis chapter 33. Then Jacob looked up and saw Esau coming with his 400 men. So he divided the children among Leah, Rachel, and his 2 servant wives. He put the servant wife and their children at the front, Leah and her children next, and Rachel and Joseph last. Then Jacob went on ahead. As he approached his brother, he bowed down to the ground 7 times before him. Then Esau ran to meet him and embraced him, threw his arms around his neck, and kissed him. They both wept. Then Esau looked at the women and children and asked, "Who are these people with you?" "These are the children God has graciously given to me," your servant Jacob replied. Then the servant's wife came forward with their children and bowed before him. Next came Leah with her children and bowed before him. Finally, Joseph and Rachel came forward and bowed before him. What were all the flocks and herds I met as I came?" Esau asked. Jacob replied, "They are a gift, my lord, to ensure your friendship." "My brother, I have plenty," Esau answered. "Keep what you have for yourself." But Jacob insisted, "No, if I have found favor with you, please accept this gift from me. What a relief to see your friendly smile. It's like seeing the face of God. Please take this gift I have brought you. For God has been gracious to me. I have more than enough." And because Jacob insisted, Esau finally accepted the gift. "Well," Esau said, "let's be going. I will lead the way." But Jacob replied, "You can see, my lord, that some of these children are very young, and the flocks and herds have their young too. If they are driven too hard, even for one day, all the animals could die. Please, my lord, go ahead of your servant. I will follow slowly at a pace that is comfortable for the livestock and the children. I will meet you at Seir." "All right," Esau said, "but at least let me assign some of my men to guide and protect you." Jacob responded, "That's not necessary. It's enough that you have received me warmly, my lord." So Esau turned around and started back to Seir that same day. Jacob, on the other hand, traveled on to Sukkot. There he built himself a house and made shelters for his livestock. This is why the place was named Sukkot, which means shelter. Later, having traveled all the way from Padanaram, Jacob arrived safely in the town of Shechem, in the land of Canaan. There he set up camp outside the town. Jacob bought the plot of land where he camped from the family of Hamor, the father of Shechem, for 100 pieces of silver. And there he built an altar and named it El Elohi Israel. Now, that's Genesis chapter 33. Now, this is what I want you to learn from chapter 33. Quite interesting lesson. The first lesson to learn from chapter 33 is this: God makes even your enemies to be at peace with you. You know, after Jacob had encountered God and his name has been changed to Israel, the next time we see Jacob encountering Esau. Remember what Esau had said. Esau has said that because Jacob has stolen my birthright, I will mourn my father, and after then I will kill Jacob. And when Rebekah heard that, he told Jacob to flee to Laban's place, her brother's house, and stay there. And that's where Jacob had been for the past 20 years. Now, this was the first time Esau and Jacob were seeing each other face to face after 20 years, after when Jacob stole his birthright. But guess what? Because Jacob had had several encounters with God, and God had changed his name from Jacob to Israel, when Esau saw Jacob, Esau embraced him, kissed him, hugged him. This was somebody who had sworn that he would kill Jacob. But now, seeing Jacob, he hugged him, embraced him, he kissed him, and was friendly with him. What does that tell you? God makes even your enemies to be at peace with you. Scripture says, when a man's way pleases the Lord, yes, so this is what Jacob was experiencing. Esau that had longed to kill him saw him and was friendly with him. The scripture says, when a man's way pleases God, he makes even his enemies to be at peace with him. This is what Jacob was experiencing. He now found peace with his brother Esau. Lesson number one, God makes even your enemies to be at peace with you. Quite an interesting lesson. Even your enemies will be at peace with you. Lesson number two is interesting because there are lessons to learn from Esau. Remember, Esau was the one that didn't get the blessing. But yet, his father Isaac told him that when you become restless, he will break his yoke off you. Now, this same Esau had become so great that he had 400 men that were with him when he went to meet Jacob. 400 men. This same Esau was the one that when Jacob saw him, Jacob bowed down 7 times to him. This same Esau was the one that Jacob saw and called Lord. Who collected blessing? Jacob. Who looked more blessed? Esau. In fact, when he brought the gifts, Jacob told Esau, these gifts are yours. Esau told him, I have plenty. I am not lacking anything. I have plenty. Lessons to learn from Esau. Number one, he had 400 men. He had grown so big, he had that amount of men in his household. Remember, Abraham at one time had 318 men in his household. Esau had 400 men. You know what it is to have 400 men? 400 men in his household. He wasn't an army. He had 400 men as a person. That's how great he was. That's excluding his servant. These were his men that followed him. Lesson to learn from Esau. Esau said, I have plenty. All that Jacob were offering to Esau as a gift, Esau said, I have plenty. So I'm not lacking anything. I have plenty. But this was Esau that did not get the blessing. Are you getting this? Lesson to learn from Esau is the lesson number 2. Number 1, he had 400 men. He had become so great in himself. Number 2, he had plenty of goods, cows, camels, donkeys, goats. He had plenty. He told Jacob, I have plenty. I don't need this. I don't need it. I have plenty. And number three, he forgave Jacob. Yes, Jacob stole his birthright. Yes, Jacob deceived their father, but he forgave Jacob. He hugged him. He kissed him. He was friendly to him. After 20 years, he forgave Jacob. This is a powerful lesson to learn from Esau. And then the third lesson to learn from chapter 33, a man's gift makes room for him. Regardless, Jacob still sent gifts to Esau. He sent gifts to him. Now, a man's gift may be your talent. A man's gift may also be the things that you offer others. Gifts you actually give, literal gifts. He gave Esau gifts. He insisted. And Esau said, okay, no problem. I'll keep them. So, learn to give gifts to people. Your skill and your talent as a gift will make room for you. But also your physical gifts you give to people will also make room for you. Your generosity in giving will also make room for you. So don't be a tight-fisted person. Learn to give, learn to show hospitality, learn to help others. It will also make room for you. So 3 lessons to learn from chapter 33 of Genesis. Number 1, God makes even your enemies to be at peace with you. Number 2, the lessons from Esau. Number 1, he had 400 men. Esau had become great. This was excluding his servants and slaves. He had 400 men. Number 2, he had plenty of cattle, of goats, of sheep, of bulls, of animals, of flocks. He had plenty. Number 3, he forgave Jacob. He forgave Jacob. And the third lesson to learn from chapter 33 is that a man's gift makes room for him. Regardless, Jacob still offered gifts to Esau when he met him. Now let's go to Genesis chapter 34. Right? Genesis chapter 34. Now one day, the daughter of Jacob and Leah went to visit some of the young women who lived in the area. But when the local prince, Shechem, son of Hamor, the Hivite, saw Dinah, he seized her and raped her. But then he fell in love with her, and he tried to win her affection with tender words. He said to his father, Hamor, "Get me this young girl. I want to marry her." Soon Jacob heard that Shechem had defiled his daughter Dinah, but since his sons were out in the field, herding their livestock, he said nothing until he returned. Hamor, Shechem's father, came to discuss the matter with Jacob. Meanwhile, Jacob's son had come in from the field as soon as they heard what had happened. They were shocked and furious that their sister had been raped. Shechem had done a disgraceful thing against Jacob's family, something that should never be done. Hamor tried to speak with Jacob and his sons. "My son Shechem is truly in love with your daughter," he said. "Please let him marry her. In fact, let's arrange other marriages too. You give us your daughters for our sons, and we'll give you our daughters for your sons. And you may live among us. The land is open to you. Settle here and trade with us, and feel free to buy property in the area." Then Shechem himself spoke to Dinah's father and brothers. "Please be kind to me and let me marry her," he begged. "I will give you whatever you ask. No matter what dowry or gift you demand, I will gladly pay it. Just give me the girl as my wife." But since Shechem had defiled their sister Dinah, Jacob's sons responded deceitfully to Shechem and his father Hamor. They said to him, "We couldn't possibly allow this because you are not circumcised. It will be a disgrace for our sister to marry a man like you. But here's the solution. If every man among you will be circumcised like we are, then we will give you our daughters. We will take your daughters for ourselves. We will live among you and become one people. But if you don't agree to be circumcised, we will take her and be on our way." Hamor and his son agreed to their proposal. Shechem wasted no time in acting on this request, for he wanted Jacob's daughter desperately. Shechem was a highly respected member of his family, and he and his father went to present the proposal to the leaders at the town gate. "These men are our friends," they said. "Let's invite them to live here among us and trade freely. Look, the land is large enough to hold them. We can take their daughters as wives and let them marry us. But they will consider staying here and becoming one people with us only if our men are circumcised just as they are. But if we do this, All their livestock and possession can eventually be ours. Come, let's agree to their terms and let them settle among us. So all the men in the town council agreed with Hamor and Shechem, and every man in the town was circumcised. But 3 days later, when their wounds were still sore, two of Jacob's sons, Simon and Levi, who were Dinah's full brothers, took their sword and entered the town without opposition. Then they slaughtered every male there, including Hamor and his son Shechem. They killed them with their swords. They took Dinah from Shechem's house and returned to their camp. Meanwhile, the rest of Jacob's sons arrived, finding the men slaughtered. They plundered the town because their sister had been defiled there. They seized all the flocks and herds and donkeys, everything they could lay their hands on, both inside the town and outside in the field. They looted all their wealth and plundered their houses. They also took all the little children and wives and led them away as captives. Afterward, Jacob said to Simon and Levi, "You have ruined me. You have made me stink among all the people of this land, among all the Canaanites and Perizzites. We are so few that they will join forces and crush us. I will be ruined and my entire household will be wiped out. But why should we let him treat our sister like a prostitute?" They resorted angrily. That's chapter 34. Now, 3 things to learn from chapter 34, right? Number one, sometimes it is hard to right your wrong. Now, I'm going to explain this a bit, right? Sometimes it's hard to right your wrong. You see, Shechem had raped Dinah, and then he now fell in love with her, and then he now wanted to marry her. So he did everything the opposite. He would have fallen in love with her, married her, or married her, fall in love with her, then slept with her. But he did the reverse. And now he's trying to right the wrong. Sometimes it is hard to right your wrong. And sometimes when people make some mistakes, they feel, okay, I can just correct it. Many times it's hard to correct some mistakes. Shechem trying to go and marry Dinah became impossible. Instead, all the men of their clan were wiped out as a result of one person's mistake. So take note of this. Sometimes it's hard to right your wrong. So don't make mistakes with the mind that, oh, I can always fix it. Oh, I can always rectify it. No. Sometimes it is hard to right your wrong. Are you getting this? Second lesson to learn is deceit. Now, Jacob's sons, they told Shechem and Hamor, his father, and said, "Tell all the people that we'll only let you marry our sister Dinah if you are all circumcised." I know circumcision is a very painful thing. And to be circumcised as an adult is even more painful. So they all agreed because they really wanted Shechem to marry Dinah. So all the men in the clan agreed to be circumcised. On the third day, while they were still carrying the pain from the circumcision, Simon and Levi went into the camp and killed every male, including Shechem and Hamor. That was pure deceit. They knew that that's the only way these people will not be able to fight back because they are going through the pains from circumcision. So they deceived them to let them know that if you are circumcised, we will agree for you to marry our sister. But that was just to get them to be weak so that by the time they come to attack them, there will not be any resistance. And that's what happened. They killed all the men. And then the other brothers came and plundered the camp and carried all the children and wives as captives and all their animals and all their flocks and everything. That was simple deceit. They knew they were never going to let Shechem marry their sister. Instead, they deceived them, made them to circumcise themselves, and then killed them after 3 days. Because then they could not defend themselves. They could not fight because they were too weak from the pain from the circumcision. That was deceit in its purest form. The third lesson, never lose control. Now, this is quite an important lesson because we see here that Jacob has lost control of his sons. Simon and Levi, they killed all the men. Jacob had no control. Right? The other sons, they went to plunder what was left. He had no control. In fact, he could not even control his own household because the sons were doing whatever they wanted to do. They were the same ones who said that the men must first be circumcised before they will consider marrying their sister out. Jacob had lost control of his household. See, guys, never lose control. Once you lose control, a lot can go wrong. Now, Jacob was complaining at the end that I am done with, I am done for. The other clans can come together and crush me. But this is happening because he had lost control of his sons. The sons were doing whatever they wanted to do, regardless of their father. So the 3 lessons to learn from chapter 34. Number 1, sometimes it's hard to right your wrong. Number 2, deceit. Number 3, never lose control. These are the 3 lessons you can learn from Genesis chapter 34. Please do want to share with me any lessons you feel I missed out or you feel you're also learning that I did not talk about, right? And let's go to the last one, Genesis chapter 35, which is the last for today. Then God said to Jacob, get ready and move to Bethel and settle there. Build an altar there to the God who appeared to you when you fled from your brother Esau. So Jacob told everyone in his household, get rid of all the pagan idols, purify yourself, and put on clean clothing. We are now going to Bethel, where I will build an altar to the Lord, who answered my prayers when I was in distress. He has been there with me wherever I have gone. So they gave Jacob all their pagan idols and earrings, and he buried them under the great tree near Shechem. As they set out, a terror from God spread over the people in all the towns of that area, so no one attacked Jacob's family. Eventually, Jacob and his household arrived at Luz, also called Bethel in Canaan. Jacob built an altar there and named the place El Bethel, which means God of Bethel, because God had appeared to him there while he was fleeing from his brother Esau. Soon after this, Rebekah's old nurse Deborah died. She was buried beneath the oak tree in the valley below Bethel. Ever since, the tree had been Alon Bukot, which means oak of weeping. Now that Jacob had returned from Padanaram, God appeared to him again at Bethel. God blessed him, saying, your name is Jacob, but you will not be called Jacob any longer. From now, your name will be Israel. So God renamed him Israel. Then God said, I am El Shaddai, God Almighty. Be fruitful and multiply. You will become a great nation, even many nations. Kings will be among your descendants, and I will give you the land I once gave your father. I once gave to Abraham and Isaac. Yes, I will give it to you and your descendants after you. Then Jacob went up from the place where he had spoken. Then God went up from the place where he had spoken to Jacob. Jacob set up a pillar of stone there to mark the place where God had spoken to him. Then he poured wine over it as an offering to God and anointed the pillar with olive oil. And Jacob named the place Bethel, which means house of God, because God had spoken to him there. Leaving Bethel, Jacob and his clan moved on towards Euphrates, but Rachel went into labor while they were still some distance away. Her labor pains were intense. After a very hard delivery, the midwife finally exclaimed, don't be afraid, you have another son. Rachel was about to die, but with her last breath, she named the baby Benoni, which means son of my sorrow. The baby's father, however, called him Benjamin, which means son of my right hand. So Rachel died and was buried on the way to Ephrath, that is Bethlehem. Jacob set up stone monument over Rachel's grave, and it can be seen there to this day. Then Jacob traveled on and camped beyond Migdal Eder, which he was living. While he was living there, Reuben had intercourse with Bilhah, his father's concubine, and Jacob soon heard about it. And these are the 12 sons of Jacob. The sons of Leah were Reuben, Jacob's oldest son, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun. The sons of Rachel were Joseph and Benjamin. The sons of Bilhah, Rachel's servants, were Dan and Naphtali. The sons of Zilpah, Leah's servants, were Gad and Asher. And these are the names of the sons who were born to Jacob at Padanaram. So Jacob returned to his father Isaac in Mamre, which is near Kidrat-Bar, now called Hebron, where Abraham and Isaac had both lived as foreigners. Isaac lived for 180 years, then he breathed his last and died at a ripe old age, joining his ancestors in death. And his sons, Esau and Jacob, buried him. Now, chapter 35. Lessons to learn from chapter 35. Number 1, God gives instruction. You see, God finally gave Jacob an instruction and said, go to Bethel and settle there. Right? God gives instruction. And you see, God's instruction for your life is always the best. Literally. It may not make sense to you, but God's instruction for your life is always the best. And God gives instruction. That's the first thing to learn from Genesis chapter 35. God told Jacob, now Israel, he says, go to Bethel and dwell there. That's number 2, divine protection. God caused a fear to be among the people as Jacob traveled, that no one dare attack him. Now they've heard what Jacob had done. They've heard what Jacob's sons had done. So people had intentions to attack them. But God put a fear of Jacob on the people around him that no one dared to attack him. What is that? Divine protection. So while Jacob was traveling on his own, God ensured that no one attacked him. That's divine protection. Jacob didn't have soldiers protecting him. He didn't have guards everywhere, but he was divinely protected. You know, this was the kind of protection that Elisha had, that he told the servant, they that be with us are more than they that be with them. Are you getting this? So, you must always have this consciousness as a believer that you have divine protection. Remember Psalm 91, he that dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. God caused a fear to be on the people that no one dared to attack Jacob. No one dared. They had the plan, but they could not try it. Now, when scripture say no one dared, mean that they had the intentions to attack him, but they could not. They could not. You know, when they were traveling in Exodus, God was a pillar of fire by night and a pillar of cloud by day. This same thing that Jacob was experiencing, divine protection. He knew that people would want to attack him, but God divinely protected him. And the third lesson is covenant consciousness. God reminded Jacob, now Israel, about the covenant and said, see, as I was with your father, as I was with your grandfather, I will be with you. I will bless you and make you great. Kings will come from your descendants. I will give all of these lands to your descendants. Jacob needed to be aware of that covenant. And God reminded him again of the covenant, which is the covenant consciousness. And in our world today, the covenant we have today is the covenant with Christ. Christ has now become the covenant that we have with God. So anytime we remember the cross, we remember the covenant that God has with us now, with Christ. Are you getting this? So these are the 3 lessons to learn from chapter 35. God gives instructions, and the instruction you must obey when God gives it. Number 2, there's divine protection. He that dwells in the secret place of the Most High abides under the shadow of the Almighty. You know, to be on somebody's shadow, it means the person is bigger than you. I get it. The person is bigger than you. That's when you are under the shadow. And then there's covenant consciousness. You must be mindful of the covenant that you have with God. And that covenant today is the covenant that we have in Christ. As long as we have put faith in Jesus, we are in that covenant. Are you getting this? Is this making sense? So, this is episode 7 of the series Genesis. And this is the mod that we can take from chapter 31 to chapter 35. Next week, we're going to do episode 8, and we'll take chapter 36 to chapter 40. Like I told you, we just have 3 more chapters to go. No, 3 more episodes to go, because this will end in episode 10, right? 5 chapters, 50 chapters in total, 10 episodes, right? So this is episode 7. We're gradually getting towards the end of this series, Genesis. Hope this has been worth your while. Have you learned something today? Something stood out for you from chapter 31 through to chapter 35. So many things to learn. I encourage you to read your Bible so that you can understand this story even better. I'm using the New Living Translation just in case you're using the King James and it sounds different. I'm using the New Living Translation for this series, so you can also use that to read so you can understand where I'm coming from. So, guys, thank you so much for joining. I'm super excited we're able to do this today without little or no interruptions from network or for power. Today was just crisp, and today was just clear through to the end. Thank you so much. It was better off than previous episodes where we had some cuts and breaking transmissions, but we didn't have that today. Thank you so much for being here from the beginning to the end. Like we always say, do well to share this with your friends, your families, your loved ones, and even your enemies. And don't fail to like, to subscribe, and turn on post notification so you don't miss out of exciting episodes that we get to share in this series and many more to come. So, if you have any questions, do well to ask in the comment. And if there are no questions, it's fine. If you do have questions when watching the replay, leave the questions in the comment and we'll still take the questions. So we had a few feedback today. Thank you for the fire. Yes, God is unchanged. So true. Yes, how you live your life is very key. Jacob wasted 20 years of his life. 20 years. 20 years. Amazing. And let God defend you. God defended Jacob. God told Laban to not harm him. God defended Jacob. Right? Yes, only God truly will reward service. All that Jacob labored for 20 years was only God that rewarded him. Because Laban was still trying to outsmart him. He changed his wages 10 times in 20 years. God gives instruction and it's always best. It's always the best. Yes, God's instruction is always the best that you obey them. Thank you so much. Yes, you've learned so much from the series, and yes, it has been amazing. Thank you so much for all the feedbacks. We're super excited. We're super glad. And this is what we call it a wrap. Like we always say, there's always more on the upgrade side of life. And that's why we encourage you that you live good behind so that you can upgrade. So, guys, see you again on episode 8 on the series Genesis. Thank you so much for watching. God bless you.